Uh-oh. It says I might. Okay. Live gets you every time. All right, we're back. We were having some technical difficulties, but it does appear that we are back on the docket here. Like I said again, you're watching the Real Talk Sports Show. We're actually on the air. We can go ahead and get our producer to get that scroll off of there. There we go. Yeah, guys. So we appreciate you for joining us here. Sorry for the technical difficulties to start the day off. I appreciate those of you who decided to tune in and join us here on the Real Talk Sports Show. A lot of stuff going on in the world of sports. Of course, the biggest stuff going on is March Madness. And of course, we've had image. We've had bracket busters, and we've had some surprising matchups. I'm going to take a look at this for just a second here, if we can get our screen tack right, and it will not. We're having some internet problems here. We hope and pray that we'll be able to get back on and get some good information in just a moment. Anyway, bottom line is this: March Madness is here. We've had some interesting games so far. We've had some barn burners. We already have people that are looking to, I don't want to say sue, but certainly very mad at the NCAA. We had a barn burner with Santa Clara and North Carolina, and Santa Clara is fuming, thinking they got a raw deal. And so they were very, very mad at the referees, and we'll see where that goes. Probably won't go anywhere. But very, very interesting, as always, with March Madness. I'll be able to speak English hopefully before this broadcast is over. Buzzer beaters back and forth. The Santa Clara game had 2 game tyings, buzzer beaters, and it's just been crazy. Let's take a look at some of the. Let's take a look at the bracket here. Let's see if I can get it here. And so, first of all, I want to give a big shout out to the HBCUs. Always good to see the HBCUs get into the tournament at all. And let's just take a look here at the first 4. That's where we saw a couple of teams on that first 4. If I can get it, it's been amazing today. It's just like my internet is going bonkers. Big shout out to Howard University. out of Washington, D.C. Big shout out to Prairie View, who unfortunately got the brakes beat off them by probably the best team in the country. Florida lost by over 50 points, 111-55. But like I said, big shout out to Prairie View for being in the tournament. And I know a lot of people, when they see some of these early scores that turn out to be blowouts, they're like, well, hey, these teams shouldn't be in. Then you have some other people thinking there should be more teams in. Look, man, really, to be honest with you, I think the magic number is 64. No disrespect to these teams that on the bubble that get into these playing games, but 64 really is the right number. Why they have these kind of like first 4 games, a lot of it's just greed, to be honest with you. It really is. It's just greed. At the end of the day, 64 teams are great. Now I'm going to go and put my old man hat on. Back in my day, I can remember when the tournament only had 48 teams. You know, and the thing that was kind of good about that is that it prevented teams like, you know, back then the ACC was stacked. You know, it had all the Carolina teams, which meant Duke and North Carolina, NC State, sometimes Wake Forest. All these teams were very, very dominant, especially the 3 I first mentioned, NC State, North Carolina, and Duke. They were just dominant teams. And so to some degree, I understand people saying we want to see the best teams in there. I get that. But at the end of the day, what it did is it put a lot more emphasis on winning your conference tournament and how well you did in your conference tournament. You know, so that the regular season games meant something. And of course, the postseason games in the tournament meant even more. And also back then, again, I hate to, pat on, but I am. They had an NIT. The NIT, National Invitation Tournament, originally there were March Madness before March Madness. It used to be the NIT was played in Madison Square Garden, which at that time, and we're going way, way back, at that time was the most legendary arena to play sports in. And so they invited teams to come in to play. And the NIT for years in the early days, and this is before most of you were born, that was the preeminent tournament. And then over time, the NCAA, with what we know today as March Madness, got involved, and NIT became a secondary tournament. But it was still a good tournament, and often was a harbinger of who were going to be the next good teams over the next couple of years. Because a lot of times teams that won the NIT tournament, we later saw them reach the NCAA tournament and do some work. And to me, they should still have that. Like, leave it like at 64. Maybe if you want to go to 52 with the first 4, that seems okay. But that's it. I mean, really, because if you really look, guys, seriously, a lot of games, if you scan stands, they did. And a lot of reasons why we attend in every sport is really because of the greed of TV executives and the schools. Because, you already have student athletes playing more games than ever before. You look at basketball, it used to be you would play between 27 and 30 games. A lot of teams are playing over 30 games. Most teams are playing over 30 games a year. And then you have the tournament. In order to win the tournament, you really have to go 6-0. So you're saying a lot of these teams are now playing almost 40-game schedule in order to win the tournament. So, like I say again, to me, you should be in a situation where I think, again, the magic number is 64. That's it. I know all these other schools want to get in because a lot of this is money, guys. This stuff is really driven by people that make it seem like, about the competition. No, it's not. It's about schools getting notoriety so they can get in better athletes so they can make more money for their program. That's really what it is. And it's a shame because it really takes a lot of the excitement out of the sport. Except for March Madness, I will give them credit. Even in the NIL era, you still have what makes the tournament great. You have buzzer beaters. You have exciting matchups that you normally would not see. Teams playing these cross-sectional games. So, like I said, again, I'd like to see it remain 64, but that's just me talking. All right, let's go take a look at scores. First of all, we want to take a look at some local scores. Sadly, we didn't do too good. Our 2 local guys that got in there, which was Kennesaw State and the University of Georgia, did not fare well. Georgia, shockingly, they were 8 seed playing against St. Louis. They were destroyed, 102-77 by St. Louis. I mean, just an absolute disaster. They went down by 17 at the half. It was 49-32 at the end of the half. and that pretty much was the ball game. Big shout out to Jeremiah Wilkinson, who did everything he could to keep the Bulldogs in the ball game. He had 30 points, but it just wasn't enough, as they were totally dominated by the St. Louis, I love this name, the Billikens. Beat the brakes off them. And the Billikens did it basically with balanced scoring. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures, led by their guard, D. Brown, who had 18 points for the Billikens, who, again, just crushed Georgia 102-77. I mean, I know these things happen sometimes. That's just a terrible showing, especially since Georgia was the 8th seed. Big shout out also to Kennesaw State, who, as a seed, gave for their money extremely well against Gonzaga. But today, Gonzaga team, I think they hold the record, or darn near close to it. They have not lost a first-round game in a tournament, I think, in 14 or 15 appearances. Just unbelievable. They get in, and that first round, you're not getting them. It's out. They're not going to get out. But again, big shout out to Kennesaw State for hanging in there and keeping the game close until late into the second half, where finally Gonzaga pulled away. Final score, Gonzaga 73, Kennesaw State 64. Like I said, again, big shout out to Kennesaw State for hanging in there. It was only 33-27 at the half. And as I mentioned, they stayed in that ball game well into the second half before Gonzaga, showing their mettle, pulled away and won the game. 73-64 was our final. All right, last but not least, there's always some upsets, especially in the period between the 6-11, 7-10, and 5-12. You always get some upset shockers. And yesterday was no different. Number 12, High Point College knocks off Wisconsin from the big game in a thriller. 83-82 is our final. Now, here's the thing about High Point. I mean, we said we never heard of this team before. Well, they won 31 games. Actually won 30 games going into this one. They were 30-4 going into this game. So it's not like they were a terrible team. It's just that we never heard of them. But Wisconsin knows they are now, as High Point pulled off the shocker. 12 seed knocks off the number 5 seed, Wisconsin, 83-82. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here in the action. We'll be back with more of the Real Talk Sports Show in just a moment. Please don't go anywhere. Thank you. We'll be back.
Looking for a vehicle? Come to Allen Vigil Ford Lincoln in Morrow, Georgia. We're a family-owned dealership that's been serving the Atlanta area for over 40 years, offering an unbeatable selection of new Fords, Lincolns, and pre-owned vehicles. Enjoy our exceptional customer service and great financing options tailored just for you. Visit us at 6790 Mount Zion Boulevard in Morrow, Georgia, located just 20 minutes from downtown Atlanta. Call us at 678-364-3979 or visit online at allenvigilford.net.
As I mentioned earlier before the break, for those of you just tuning in, my name is Jonathan Simmons. I'm the host of the Real Talk Sports Show, which is what you're watching right now. And this is our Saturday Sports Update. And of course, we have to talk March Madness. And as I mentioned before I went to the break, the games you always got to watch out for are those games between like 6-11, 7-10, 8-9, and 5-12. And like I mentioned, the first round was not without those same types of upsets. Let me give you some more upsets. VCU, a team that is known to do this before, rolls up and knocks off the Tar Heels 82-78. So UNC from the ACC is goodbye, as VCU knocks them off 82-78. Another one of those games where you had a lower seed knock off a higher seed. Let's go here to a 11-6 game. The University of Texas, I don't know why they were ranked 11th. They were knocked off BYU 79-71. BYU was the number 6 seed going into that tournament. Let's get you another one of those. The offs. And what's here? This is one where there's some controversy. Sarah lose to I just forgot. And the lose to Duke, I believe. Let me make sure I can go back and get this straight here. No, Kentucky. 89-84 in an absolute thrill of a ball game. And Santa Clara is under having some protests because they're thinking they weren't quite treated well in that game as far as the referee calls. So we'll see more about that as time goes on. Of course, as I mentioned in the early part of this broadcast, the biggest shocker was High Point knocking off Wisconsin 82. Another 9-8 one. Utah State knocks off Villanova 86-76. And number 9 Iowa knocks off Clemson 67-61. So like I said, you can never go by those seedings in those types of games. The teams are just too closely matched. You never know what's going to happen in those games. All right, that's March Madness. A lot of great games coming on today. So if you get a chance to watch, please do. I tell you one you want to keep your eye on. St. Louis, the Billikens, after they destroyed Georgia 102-77. These guys have scored the best of them. They average about 9 points a game. And they're taking on number 1 ranked Michigan, noontime game today. So keep that with me up after this broadcast just about. Another one you want to keep your eyes on. Texas, number 11, against number 3 Gonzaga. That's one you want to watch. Miami of Florida, number 7 against Purdue. You want to keep your eyeballs on that game as well. So you got some thrillers out there that you guys need to kind of keep your eye on. And one last one. Number 10, Texas A&M against Houston. You know, them in-state rivalries are not to be discounted. So keep your eye on that game as well. So lots of great basketball that will be coming up all day today and tomorrow as March Madness is in full swing. I really haven't got a chance to watch much of it. But as you can see, man, it's always a thrill when these teams get in there because it's different than the pros. You know, a lot of these guys are not going to be able to go to the pros. So this is kind of their swan song. This is their kind of put me on the map. And the cool thing about these March Madness games is that all it takes really, even for like quote unquote a mid-major or one of these lower ranked teams, is to have a guy or 2 guys who are stuck and have the hot for a 5 or 6 game run, and you'll see these kind of upsets throughout the tournament. So keep your eyes on some of these teams. Go on there. You can't do a bracket now. It's too late. But nevertheless, you still have the ability to watch these games and pick your favorite as they go forward. Now, the other thing we got going on here in Atlanta is the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Hawks had made national headlines because earlier in the week, it was canceled. They had a promotion tied to a legendary, I hate to even use that word, let's say a well-known strip club here in Atlanta. That's right, strip club called Magic City. And they actually were going to have a promotion around Magic City saying it's part of the Atlanta culture. Now, I don't know what kind of culture they're talking about. And evidently, the NBA didn't either, as they told the Hawks, you cannot have a promotion that's tied to a strip club. Imagine that. And so the Hawks had to cancel it. They had all kinds of sweatshirts and things that they were giving out. And a lot of people did get the sweatshirts, and they probably will be a collector's item somewhere down the road. But the Hawks were not able to have a basically feature strip club, which is kind of crazy. I understand how the Hawks operate. I cover them all the time. Their promotional staff has always been kind of edgy as far as different things they do. They've always kind of tapped into like the controversy time to time. They had a Tinder night, which is basically, as for those of you who are not familiar with Tinder, it's kind of like a hookup app. They had a night around that. They had a night they also had a promo that tied into the Ashley Madison. For those of you who are not familiar with that, Google it up. Ashley Madison was a website designed for people who want to commit adultery. Why the Hawks feel that they want to get themselves tied up with things like this, I don't know. And they were kind of making a tongue-in-cheek joke about it, but still a little bit too edgy for me. Anyway, let's get back to the Hawks playing on the court. Hawks playing extremely well. These last 2 to 3 weeks, they have been outstanding as the Hawks had a 10-game winning streak, 11-game winning streak, which was unfortunately snapped by the Houston Rockets last night. They got obliterated in Houston. Final score was, I believe, 117-92. Hawks at one point were down by 34 in that ball game. Just got manhandled, basically. No presence on the inside, got out-rebounded. Percentage wise, they were terrible, especially from three. And for the Hawks, if they don't have a good 3-point shooting night, then we pretty much you can wrap it up, because the Hawks, for them, is live by the three or die by the three, and they died by the three in Houston. They shot less than 30%. Meanwhile, the Rockets shot around 40%. KD, of course, does what he always does against the Hawks. 25 points for him. Jabari put the wrong name out there. Jabari Smith had a game. He always plays well against his hometown team. He played basketball in a suburb of Atlanta called Tyrone, right down the road. Was an outstanding star there, high school All-American. And he later went on to be drafted in the top 4 by the Houston Rockets. And he had a big night as well. The Hawks' 12-game winning streak snapped. However, the Hawks have moved themselves up from being a number 10 seed all the way up before last night's game to a number 6 seed. After this loss, they're now back in the 7th slot. But this Atlanta Hawk team has really been impressive, especially considering the fact that they basically have revamped the entire team since the All-Star break. Yeah, they basically reassembled the whole team. Well-known star Trae Young, a guy who had some epic moments in Atlanta early in his career, shipped out. A guy that many people felt that he'd be a Hawk for life, and he did as well. Gone. Massive changes up and down that lineup. Vit Krejci, now he was a kind of an 8th man, but kind of a fan favorite. Gone. And the Hawks brought in a plethora of new players, including CJ McCollum, and that was part of the Trae Young trade. Cody Kispert was also part of that trade. But the biggest thing that they brought in was Jonathan Kuminga, getting him from Golden State. This guy plays over the rim. He is an absolute monster in the paint. Now, the only problem he seems to have is he seems to be a little fragile. He's been battling knee injuries, and that has caused him to miss multiple games with the Hawks. But the games he does play, the guy, like Siggin's a monster, plays over the rim, great finisher at the basket, decent rebounder and defender, and a guy that, when he's healthy, makes the Hawks a very, very difficult team to beat. Along with, of course, Jalen Johnson, a guy who many people think has a shot to be on the All-NBA team. And you said, really? Yes, really. He's averaging about 23 points a game. He's averaging over 10 rebounds a game, almost 8 assists a game, playing the forward position. Yeah, I mean, just basically almost a triple-double every night. Having a monster year. And the Hawks are 6 games over 500, and they haven't been 6 games over 500 this late in the season in years. So now, what do the Hawks need to do to keep this momentum going? Well, number one, I told everybody they really need to be in the 6th seed. They want to get out of the play-in round. I mean, you just got to get out of there. Because the play-in round means you're going to have to take on either the Detroit Pistons or the Boston Celtics. Celtics are defending NBA champions, and Detroit having one of the best records in the league this year. Don't have to play them out of the chute. Rather have to play the Knicks. Knicks not a bad team, don't get me wrong. Rather play Toronto. Toronto, again, a good team, but neither one of them are at the level of a Boston or a Detroit, as far as this year is concerned. So I believe the Hawks need to get out of there so they can at least get that 6th spot. Play the Knicks, a team they played fairly well over the years. How much maybe this traditionally they played them well, especially when Trae Young obviously was here. What do the Hawks need to do to continue to win? Well, they're going to have to continue to play balanced basketball. They're going to have to continue to keep the ball moving. They have to find some way to rebound better, because that's really the Hawks' Achilles heel, their inability to rebound and to defend in the paint. So hopefully they'll be able to get that corrected. All right, guys, it's time to wrap this thing up. Thank you so much for tuning in to join us here on the broadcast. Again, I'm Jonathan Simmons. Please follow us anywhere on social media at Real Talk Sports, the number 7. We're there on all social media platforms. You can find Twitch. The OG, you can be found on Twitch. So again, like I said, go to our page, subscribe, or follow us. Like I said, at Real Talk Sports, the number 7. That's where we can be found. So we definitely appreciate any of you for subscribing to our channel, especially on YouTube. There you go. For those of you who just started watching me, I am, in fact, a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I want to really encourage you. If you don't have a relationship with God, please, here's how you do it. You need to repent of your sins, reason why, because all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and believe that his son Jesus Christ came here, was fully man, fully God, died for your sins, and then rose from the dead. And the cool thing is, if you believe that, two great things happen to you. Number one, become a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. And number two, an adoptive child of God with all the rights therein. That means you can go to God like a heavenly parent, father, and for anything that you need or desire, and according to his will, granted to you. And when you do that spectacular, beautiful place called heaven, the horrific, horrible place called hell. I don't know about option number one instead of option number two. All right, everybody. Till the next time we get back together, I do simply bless you and have a wonderful rest of the day or evening, whichever may apply. So long. Take care.